Hello my friends, welcome back. Today we are making a card featuring a bunch of Altenew products. The ones here were generously donated to me from Altenew for the December 2024 release. We're going to use today the Essential Texture Stone Wall, and we'll be better pressing that. Then we're going to use a Sentiment, the Thinking of You from the Dreamy Dahlias. This is a Build a Garden set that has the stencils, the dies, and the stamp set. And then for our main flower, we will be coloring it with the markers from Altenew. And I have a special surprise for you, or I am teaming up with Altenew to bring you an exclusive offer. Today is the last day for this offer. It's been a 3-day weekend offer. I have a $5 off promo code, details on your screen here, off a $59 order of any BetterPress or hot foil plates or bundles that include any of those plates. That expires at midnight tonight. So today I'm going to share with you how I enjoy the alcohol markers, and we're going to color up these images here and use them on our background plate for our finished card today. So let me just clear everything out here, get all these products off our screen, and we will go ahead and alcohol color this together since it's the focus of the tutorial today, and then we'll better press the background towards the end. So the colors I've chosen to use today are coming from the Cosmic Garden set and the Mediterranean Terrace Garden set from Altenew. This is how they come when they come in collections. You can get packages like this, or you can get a package with just one color family. Now, the beautiful things about the Altenew markers is that they coordinate with your Altenew inks, Altenew papers. Everything coordinates, which is beautiful. So I love that. It also has a brush tip, which is very similar to the Copic marker tip, which is what I love to color with. And instead of the bullet nib, which we never use in Copic markers, they have geniusly added a fine tip on this end. Much more useful than a chisel tip, in my opinion. So I am loving these. I am currently collecting the set myself, and I will be definitely getting the Rock Garden set myself as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the coloring. So for this, I have chosen 3 of the purples and 3 of the greens. So the purple came from the Mediterranean Terrace. These greens came from the Cosmic Garden. So I'm using the small, the medium, the light, the medium, the light and the 2 mediums for these examples, I believe. This might be the dark and the purple. But anyways, this is C002, which I'll just sit right there. And we're going to go ahead and just color. And I'm using the wrong end, of course. I want to use the brush tip, which is my favorite. I use it all the time, as you can tell. Look at my hands. But I'll put that C002 there. And this brushed nib is very flexible. It's very pointed. And it's the closest thing to Copics that I have found. And I have tried them all. And I'm a Copic girl, but these are winning me over very, very quickly. And for the price that these are, this is a definitely go-to for alcohol markers. So I'm going to just put a light base coat of this lightest marker down, and I'm not going to go all the way to the edge. Okay, I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way, let's say. Here we go. And I'm just doing slight little flicks. I flick like this and flick, and when you flick, the tip of your marker goes up at the end, and that makes it a very faint line out here, which helps with the blending. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just going to do the 1 petal right now, just as the sample. So then I'll go into the next marker, which is R702. And I'm going to come in here I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get a little bit darker closer in here. Okay. And I'm going to also start to add a little bit of dimension here. Now, the artist has given us these wonderful curves along the outer edge of the flower. So I'm going to use those to our advantage. Now you could do this if you're nervous. If you're nervous about this, do this with the lightest. Here, let me show you. Do this with the lightest color because you always can go back over this color and make it darker. So just as a guide to make sure that you know, are in the right area of where you want to put these lines. Wherever there is a divot where it comes in, you can actually bring that in like this, in like a triangle fashion, and bring it down like so. It's making a triangle, if you see that right there. Okay. Now, what this is going to do, here's another one here. What this is going to do is give your flower a little more dimension. So anywhere you see that little divot, you can add a little dimension. Then of course you can come along your artist drawn lines as well and add a little shadow to those as well. And all of this is being done right now in the light, but all of this is going to make this petal just come to life from rather than actually like if you stenciled it. This is going to just bring this petal to a new dimension using the alcohol markers. So let me show you that real quick, and then we're going to go over it with the medium so you can see it with the medium as well. And I always go light to dark because if you do put color down where you don't like it, the next layer can usually fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the R702, and I'm going to go ahead and go over these lines, but I'm not going to go as far. I'm going to go almost as far as the one before it. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to put my little V. It's like a little triangle V right there. I'm going to add my other one here. And then with these artist drawn lines, I'm going to go ahead and just choose a side. To me, this would be the shadow side. So I'm just going to choose a side, and I'm going to run my marker down that side as well. Okay. And I'm also going to add that color here in the center because it's always going to be darker in the center and it's going to be lighter towards the tips of the petals. So I'm not going to go too far because we want to still have room to blend. I think I'm going to make this a little darker in here as well. Okay, so here is the current petal, and you see it's already starting to take shape. You see that? Okay, so now I'm going to go to the darkest marker, and I'm going to get that, and that is the, I keep opening in the wrong end. Let's see, this is the R823. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come in here. Now this is the darkest marker, so you want to be ginger with it. But just come in here and just add a little bit of dark. Don't go as far, like I said before, as your last one. You always can add more. It's very hard to take it away, though you can somewhat with alcohol markers with your blender. But I'm going to go ahead and just put that in there. Then I'm going to come down on the right side of each of these and give it a little, and remember this is the darkest, so we are going to blend this out. It's going to look really dark right now, and that is okay. I'm also going to do a smaller amount down here and maybe go along the bottom rim here of the flower. You can also go up the side here a little bit too. There we go. All right, so now we're going to go back down. This is the middle color, and we're going to extend this. So we're going to come down and we're going to blend that darker color out by dragging it down, touching the tip to the darkest part and bringing it down. And this part now, since this is the middle, I'm going to go ahead and just connect these and kind of blend the dark right there into the medium. And then again, I'm going to pull this dark down. and I'm extending it out. I'm making this little V or triangle area a little more pronounced when I do that because I'm going a little farther down. I want it to go farther than the darkest marker was. So then I'm going to go over these and blend these out a little bit as well. When you go in with a lighter marker like this, it tends to lighten the darker marker underneath it because of the amount of alcohol that's in the marker. There's more pigment in the darker markers, and there's less pigment and more alcohol in the lighter markers. So they tend to bleach out the darkest ones, and that allows for this gradient of shading that I'm getting along here. Okay, so this is the medium color, remember. Just blend that a little bit more right there. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and continue this dark line here up. Go ahead and blend that in there as well. So the goal now is to start closing the space, okay? All of these spaces that are the lightest color still are going to be lots of highlights in here. They're not going to be this much highlight because we're going to still drag the colors out, but I'm going to just show you this up close before I start doing that so you can see how we've extended that dark down, the dark down like that, and we've extended this dark up, okay? All leading into the highlight. So now I'm going to take this lightest marker, and I probably want some more medium here, but I'm going to go ahead and just do some big swipes here and see how this is looking. This is going to meld everything together and just give me an idea of how we're looking in that petal. So if I want to go a little darker, I can always come in and add a touch more. Any of these little areas, these little notches, if I want a little bit more dark in there, or I want a little more dark out here, you can always come back and do that. Like so. Okay, I'm just doing a little less than I did the first time, just adding a little bit. And that's the beauty of the tips of these markers, is they're so narrow that you can get all the details. And I'm just going to pull this back down again and drag it. And this time I might even drag it a little more towards my light source and start filling some of this in. Not my light source, my highlights. Sorry about that. Okay, but I'm not going to do too much blending there because I want that dark to stay now. I really like that dark. It really gives it more of a drastic feel. So I'm just barely touching it just to blend it and drag it down. Here I might drag it like that. And now with the medium, I'm going to go, or that was the medium, I'm sorry. With the medium, I want to continue up this way and close in this gap right here. So I'm going to just come up this way a little bit and I'm going to close that gap. Okay. And your highlights of these petals are going to surface here. As you close the gap, you're going to see the highlights at the tips of the petals. Then take your lightest and drag the rest of the way. And you don't have to do the whole way, but as you blend here, you're going to see those highlights emerging. And if they're not as pronounced as you want them, you always can go back and deepen the dark. So now I'm going to let this just breathe a little bit because this needs to dry and all the alcohol evaporate to give us that finished look. Okay, so we've went pretty much from this to this. You see all those the deep shadows that we've created there, and you can go as deep as you want. I've just done a little bit, but you can always go deeper. And then you see where we close the gap, we have the lighter color like that. Now for the greenery, I'm going to go ahead and put the lids back on these. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do every single petal because you'd be here for a while. But for the greenery, I'm going to go ahead and take the lightest, which is the G702. Let me get this ink off of here. We're going to start with the lightest, G702, and we're just going to give it a base coat, just like we did with the flower. Not going all the way to the end. By leaving that white space, you're preserving the highlight that you want at the end of the project. See how beautiful these markers lay down? I am in love. And that's why, even though I've always been a Copic baby, that's why I've been collecting these. And you know, it's an investment. Alcohol markers are an investment. But when, at the end of the day, your results are always so worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. That's the lightest, G702. Now I'm going to use G715. And I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to come in here and just give it the stems a little detail. I'm still using the brush tip as the brush. I'm doing flicks instead of circular motions. I don't like circular motions. I don't like the way it blends, because you continue to, when you're going in circles, you're taking the dark into the light, back into the dark, back into the light, back into the dark, back into the light. And every time you do that, you're mixing that alcohol, that light, the majority of the alcohol in with the dark, and all of it's becoming the same color. So I have better experience with doing the flicks, because then you can layer the color. And where these lines are flicking out like that, I can then come in and extend that. Here, I'll do it with the light marker. I can come in and just come to the tip here and extend this out like that. And it softens those flicks and you get a better blend. So let's add a little bit of the darker. And I'm just going to add a little of this. This is really dark, so I'm just going to add a little of this. We'll just do a couple. I'm doing it more just for a little definition than I am for the whole leaf, just to give it some dark at the base. That was G554. So I'm going to go back to the medium and I'm going to drag these little flicks out so I can soften that dark so you don't see my actual marks. You can just drag it out, and you see you get kind of a medium when you do that, because the dark actually makes this mark a little darker. I'm going to drag that out, drag this out. And drag this little guy out here. Remember, this is your medium now, your medium tone. And with the Altenew markers, you actually have 4 tones, so you can actually go darker. And now I'm going to come to the tip here, and I'm going to drag this out as well, and see how far we're going to go with our highlight, and see if we want to deepen it up anymore. See, when you start small, you can always choose to go and do a whole second layer, and I'm going to leave some of that white up there and get the blend and the color transition that you really want. There you go. Leave those white tips if you want to. It just adds to the extension of the highlight. And I'm going to go back in a little bit with the medium. Maybe extend this up just a little bit. Just make that more solid. Anytime you have a lighter marker and it kind of bleaches out your darker marker, go and do a second layer. That's a big tip I can give you. Do a second layer and it will get rid of that blotchiness for you. Now that was the medium. I never went in with more dark. I went ahead and did just the medium that time, and now I'm just going to soften these edges, extend this up a little more. Maybe I need a little bit more there. Is that the dark or the medium? Ah, that's the dark. Let's fix that. Remember how I said your alcohol markers bleach out? Let me show you. See this dark mark I just put here? See that? That color goes down here, not up there. So if I take this is the lighter one, and I go over that a little bit with some flicks. I wanted to extend this. That was the whole point of me getting the markers back out, was to extend this so I didn't have quite as much highlight up here. That's the beauty of leaving your highlight, is because then you can choose at the end if you want to fill it in a little more. And then I'm going to go and take this lighter one, and I'm going to kind of go over where that mark was some more. Just kind of brush over it a little bit, and it's going to bleach it through to the underside. I call it bleaching, but it's actually the alcohol that's making it dissolve. There's more alcohol, remember, in your lighter markers than there are in your darker markers. So, okay, and if you want to close this in and make it a light tip without the white there, just come in from the opposite end and close it like that, and you'll have the lightest color still, because it's only got one layer of this light. That's the reason it stays the lightest. So if you want to come in here and just drag straight towards it like that, then you'll get that. Or you can leave the tips white like this one. I'll show you the difference here. I'll leave this one white. Just smooth it out. So this one is actually white right here. I did not color that. And these, I brought the color in from the outside in. So we've got our leaves and we've got our flowers. And just as a reminder here, just so you know, let me go ahead and put I'll use the middle marker so you can see it better. I'll show you where I would add the little extra little details. So here where this divot is, I would come in here. This is just a guide for you if you want to give this a try. Go in there. This little one here, you could actually come in a little bit if you wanted to. You could also bring these in if you wanted to. So it doesn't have to be as much as this petal. I did that petal because it was a good example of all of it, but all of these little triangles can be your extra dimension. If you turn this around, you can do the same thing. Here's a big divot right here where it comes in like a V. So we can go ahead and bring that one in. And you can kind of connect it with this vein right here. Maybe make it a little wider. That's a pretty big petal, so we'll make it a little wider. There we go. And then you can decide here, there is a curve in, a curve in, a curve in. So you can kind of decide where you want to put it. You could just put it right here because of this line right there and connect those if you want to. You could do the same. Well, these are kind of, I think this one will be a different one because it's going to come in like so. See that? So you'll have this one, then you'll have this one. See that? And we'll just leave that one alone. You could bring it in if you wanted to. Same here, look for the little indentions. Go ahead and do the bigger ones first. Let's see, we got one right there. And you've got one there, but it's kind of close. And you've got a tiny one there. If you wanted to bring a little in here, you could. So that's how I go about that. And then here, let's go ahead and give this one kind of a big one, since this petal doesn't have a whole lot of detail. This is that one at the beginning that I told you was kind of boring. But you know what? Let's just make one. How about we just do that? Why don't we just make one right here? Even though there's not a divot there, we'll still make it like there was. See that? And there you go. So that's like all of your little cheat sheet of where you could put all of your little triangles or V's, depending. And I always turn it around and I pull in, you know, I look for them like that. I turn it around and pull them in. And then you can use that as a guide and darken them up and blend them out. I hope that helps. I'm going to go ahead and finish this and die cut them out, and then we'll do our background. Okay, I'm going to be using Industrial Diamond along with Pebble cardstock. Now this is a BetterPress paper for best, you know, for the best results on our impression. I wanted to use the BetterPress paper. And so I've cut this down already, so it's ready for my layer. So it's a little smaller than A2. And let me show you how I like to tape it underneath for a full background. So I take a little extra, and I'm really careful to double this so that it's flat. You don't want a lot of ripples in this. You want to double it like so, so that when you lay it down here, it can be super flat, because you want it to be super flat. That way it doesn't mess up your impression when you run it through the BetterPress. So let me just get this other one, because we don't want any deviations in the background. We want this super flat. So just rub that down, burnish it down. It's okay if it rips a little on the back side, because we're not using the back side. We're using the front side. So I'm going to use some Industrial Diamond, and I'm going to ink this plate up really well. And when I say really well, I mean you want to see all these areas solid. You don't want to see anything like this. Let me show you closer. You don't want to see this. Let me get it to focus. This kind of inking. You want to see this solid type of inking. So you want to make sure that you ink it really good. Take your time, because you get a better press if you have the better inking. And when you're using a dye-based ink like this is, you know, a little goes a lot. I mean, a little extra goes, helps out. So I'm just gonna kind of twist and pivot and move those around. Make sure I don't have any big splotches anywhere, or make sure it's as even as I can, but it's all solid. Okay, so let's see how that's gonna go. Go ahead and put our lid back on our ink. This is fresh dye ink, by the way, that I'm using. You can see where I taped them really solid there. And I'm gonna look at all of that goodness. Isn't that awesome? You've got the texture and you've got the rock formation. And that is an awesome press. You don't see where the tape was. You don't see any issues because it's super flat and you've burnished it in real good. That paper is super, or the tape is super flat under there. So let me just pull this up. All right, so we have our background. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we are going to rearrange these and use these on our background. We're going to put them down here on this bottom corner and tuck them under like so. Maybe I'll do it the other way. Maybe I'll do this one over here. Yeah, I like that better. That way I can take this little leaf here and have it on top of that right there. And to me, that just makes it look even more natural. See that? Okay. Now to finish this off, I am going to use some of the new gem sparkles. These are 3 tones of purple. As you can see that. There's kind of like a tanzanite color. Then there's like a regular purple, and then there's like a violet purple here. So it's nice that you have some options to pick from, and you can pick the one. This is more like the tanzanite color. So I will pick that one, and we will put those around our little image, like here, here maybe, and then here and here. We'll do that. And then for the sentiment, because we're running late on time, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment with some Versamark ink and Reinker embossing powder in silver. So these are the 2 I'm going to use for the sentiment. Once I do that, I will bring back our finished card. Okay, here is the finished card. I've got the heat embossing in the thanking of you sentiment. Then I have put these here and layered them, like I said, with this one on top. Then I added a few of the gem sparkles. And these gem sparkles are, let me tell you the color. They're amethyst in color. So they perfectly match this Mediterranean terrace, these purples here. So that is what I've used today, focusing on the Mediterranean terrace, the Cosmic Garden alcohol inks. And don't forget that for a limited time, I'll run it across the screen again here, a limited time, you can get $5 off. And make sure you check the date, as this is only a limited time offer. Thank you, my friends, for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Again, my link is down below. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for supporting me through this, and I hope you've learned something today. If you've enjoyed this content, I would absolutely love it if you'd hit that like and subscribe button and leave me a note. Tell me what you think down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. Have an amazing day, my friends. Bye-bye for now.